Hello, everyone. Thank you for your time and attention. I'm hoping that this will be a little bit, this is going to be a departure from my 1 minute wisdom. It's going to be a bit longer, but I do feel like this is a very important circumstance because I'm recording this on I believe it's the 27th, 28th of September, Wednesday, 2022. And times are getting really rather strange, but there is an opportunity every day for people to have a defining moment in their lives. And for me, I think it's the opportunity for a defining moment, and I refer to essentially some of the things that have about in the past where people have created the circumstance where they made it a defining moment. One of those people was Herman Hesse. I didn't know a whole lot about him, but luckily I was introduced to him recently, and I've got to say, I'm impressed. So let me start this off by a quote from Mark Twain. 20 years from now, you will be more disappointed by the things you didn't do than by the ones you did do. So throw off the bow lines, sail away from the safe harbor, catch the trade winds in your sail, explore, dream, discover. Another quote from Helen Keller. Avoiding danger is no safer in the long run than outright exposure. Life is either a daring adventure or nothing. So with those two quotes said, I want to make sure that I'm appealing to people that understand where I'm coming from. And, there's going to be a lot of people that you're going to hear about in this next piece. People that don't see the reality of the circumstances and don't have the courage to confront the truth about the situation or the matters at hand. But I'm looking for those of you, and I want to collaborate with those of you that do see that there is something wrong and there is a responsibility to yourself and to your fellow man to rise above. Now, the letter that I'm going to read, I'll just introduce it with this. In 1946, writer Herman Hesse, who had been living in Switzerland since 1919 and who had been critical of the National Socialism after 1933, lamented the lack of insight and the self-righteousness of his German countrymen. He faulted Germans for complaining about their material situation while remaining silent about their support for Hitler and for making themselves into members of the resistance after the fact. He also criticized his compatriots for looking down on those in exile like Thomas Mann, who had actively fought against the Third Reich. Now, this is a letter to young Germans in 1946. It's strange about letters from your country. For months, a letter from Germany was a strange and always joyful event for me. It brought news that a friend I had worried about, of whom I had long heard nothing, was still alive. And it gave me a glimpse, haphazard and unreliable as it might be, of the country which speaks my language, to which I have entrusted my life work, and which, up to a few years ago, gave me my bread and the moral justification for my work. Such letters always came as a surprise, were confined to matters of importance, and contained no idle chatter. Often they were written in great haste. Then the letters became more frequent and longer. Many of these gave me no pleasure at all, and I had little desire to answer them. A prisoner in France, no youngster, but already a married man with children, a well-educated industrialist with a university degree, asked me what, in my opinion, a decent, well-intentioned man should have done in the Hitler period. A man in his position, he argued, could not have prevented anything that happened or opposed Hitler in any way. That would have been madness. It would have cost him his livelihood, his freedom, and in the end his life. I could only reply that the devastation of Russia and Poland, the siege of Stalingrad, and the lunacy of holding it to the bitter end must have also involved certain dangers, but that German soldiers had flung themselves into these pursuits with abandon. And why had the German people failed to see through Hitler before 1933? Oughtn't so early an event as the Munich Putsch have shown them what he was? Why, instead of upholding and nurturing the German Republic, the one gratifying consequence of the First World War, had they been almost unanimous in sabotaging it, voting for Hindenburg and later for Hitler, under whom, to be sure, it became very dangerous to behave like a decent human being. For instance, there are all the old acquaintances who had written me for years but stopped when they found out that I was under close surveillance and that corresponding with me could have very unpleasant consequences. Now they inform me that they are still in the land of the living, that they have always thought of me with affection and envied my good fortune at living in the paradise of Switzerland, and that, as I must be well aware, they had never sympathized with those damn Nazis. But many of these old acquaintances were party members for years. Now they tell me how they had one foot in the concentration camp all those years, and I am obliged to reply that only the anti-Nazis I can take seriously are those who had both feet in the camp, not one in a camp and the other in the party. Then there are the simple souls, former members of the youth movement, who write me that they joined the party about 1934 after a severe inner struggle, for no other purpose than to provide a salutary counterweight to the savage, brutal elements, and so on. Others have private complexes. They live in utter misery. They have serious worries, and yet they find paper, ink, time, and energy to write me long letters expressing their contempt for Thomas Mann and their indignation that I should be friends with such a man. Another group consists of former colleagues and friends who openly and unreservedly supported Hitler's triumphal progress all through the years. Now they write me touchingly friendly letters telling me all about their daily lives, their bomb damage and domestic cares, their children and grandchildren, as though nothing had happened, as though nothing had come between us, as though they had not helped to kill friends and relatives of my wife who is Jewish, and to discredit and destroy my life work. Not one of them says that he repents, that he sees things in an entirely different light today, that he was deluded. And not one of them says that he was and intends to remain a Nazi, that he regrets nothing, that he stands by his guns. Find me a Nazi who stood by his guns when things began to go wrong. These people are sickening. A few of the letter writers expect me to switch my allegiance to Germany, to come back and to help re-educate the people. A good many more call on me to raise my voice in the outside world, to protest as a neutral and humanitarian against the commission and omissions of the occupying powers. How can they be so naive, so utterly ignorant of the world and the times? so touchingly, embarrassingly childish. I have grown old and tired, and the destruction of my work has given my last years a ground base of disillusionment and sorrow. Among the good things which I am still able to enjoy, which still give me pleasure and compensate for the dark side, are the rare but undeniable indications that an authentic spiritual Germany lives on. I neither seek nor find them in the bustling of the present culture manufacturers and fair-weather Democrats, but in such gratifying manifestations of determination, alertness, and courage, of goodwill, and of confidence shorn of illusions. As your letter, I thank you for it. Preserve the seed. Keep faith with the light and the spirit. There are very few of you, but you may be the salt of the earth. One last quote from Goethe. Whatever you can do, or dream you can, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it.